I got a question for you. I just recently did a video on divorce, remarriage, and except it be for fornication. Now, some people say that the fornication that's mentioned in Matthew 19:9 is referring to prior to the marriage. Okay, so let's say that fornication is prior to the marriage. Let's take what you say. This is my question. Now, if she committed fornication prior to the marriage, are you saying that the husband who learned that his wife had had sex before they got married, is he still now stuck bound to her where he can never get another wife again when he did nothing wrong? I mean, because Jesus said, let's go to Matthew 19:9. He said, "And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commit adultery." So let's add in sex prior to marriage. "And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for sex prior to marriage, and shall marry another, commit adultery." So does that now allow the husband who found out his wife wasn't a virgin? Does that free him up now? Because Jesus said, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commit adultery. So first you putting her away because she committed fornication, and next you should marry another. So if you putting her away because she committed fornication, then I don't see what the problem. I don't see what you don't see in the scripture. So Jesus clearly said, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commit adultery. Because see, put it like this. If you put away your wife, does that make her automatically or make you automatically in adultery? No, you commit adultery by inviting another person in. You got to go mess with somebody else in order for it to be adultery. So it can't just be putting away his wife that caused you to commit adultery. Whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commit adultery. So if you don't put them away for fornication and you marry another, Jesus said you commit adultery. So how is it that y'all getting that you could put her away but you can't marry another? I don't get it. What is it that you do not see in this scripture? Now some may say, like I said, the fornication is prior to the marriage. Okay, so if it was prior to the marriage, look at what Jesus said. Whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication. Let's put prior to marriage. Whosoever shall put away his wife, except it's prior to the marriage, and shall marry another, commit adultery. So wouldn't that free him up if she did commit fornication prior to the marriage? How could you still say the man bound to this woman for life when you said it's prior to the marriage, and Jesus is clearly saying if you put her away, except it be for the fornication, you commit adultery. So I just don't get what y'all saying. The problem is you going based on what you think and what you've heard instead of going based on what Jesus said. Now, let me show you something else. People will say, because somebody told me this before, they say, well, it's talking about fornication. Like another example is talking about in Deuteronomy chapter 22. Now, let's go to Deuteronomy 22 real quick. Deuteronomy 22. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened here in this story. In Deuteronomy 22, look at verse 13. They said, this is what Jesus is talking about. If any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her, and give occasions of speech against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid, meaning not a virgin. Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of virginity, of the damsel's virginity. That's proof that she was a virgin, not money. Okay? So the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of her virginity, or the damsel's virginity, unto the elders of the city of the in the gate. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hated her. And lo, he had given occasions of speech against her, saying, I found not thy woman a maid, meaning a virgin. And these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. See, the cloth contains the tokens of her virginity, the proof that she was a virgin, the blood. It's the blood. So, and the elders of that city shall take that man and chastise him. That's if they was able to prove she was a virgin. They had the token of her virginity. And they shall immerse him, basically they shall fine him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he had brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife, and he may not put her away all his days. Now listen to this part. But if the thing be true, and the tokens of virginity be not found for the damsel. So now her tokens of virginity not found. Why? Because he finna explain why. Then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her with stones that she die, because she had wrought folly in Israel to play the whore in her father's house. So shall thou put evil away from among you. So this woman, the man went into he married this woman. He found her not to be a virgin. And so he brought the issue up before the elders of the city. They had to prove it. If they couldn't prove she was a virgin, guess what? She was stoned to death because she played the whore in her father's house. So he got with her, and she was already didn't have sex already. He wasn't required to stay with her. She died. So some say that's what Jesus is talking about, where say you could put her away. Okay, well, if you could put her away, wouldn't you be able to marry another because you found out she wasn't a virgin? Jesus clearly said, and I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commit adultery. So if you put her away for any reason outside of fornication, any reason, you put her away and go marry somebody else, you commit adultery. That's what he's saying in Luke and Mark. So in Matthew, he says, if it's except for the reason of fornication. I don't get what you don't see. And then y'all try to tell somebody you shouldn't teach it. Read the scripture right. And also, let me add another thing. When Jesus talked to these people about marriage, they were under the law of Moses. Moses' law in Deuteronomy 24 allowed a woman to become another man's wife. Deuteronomy chapter 24 tells us when a man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. And if the latter husband hate her and write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house, or if the latter husband died which took her to be his wife, her former husband, that's the first husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. After that she is defiled. So, people were living under this law. Did Jesus come along and tell those people to divorce their wives? Because this woman was able to deport, the man was able to send this woman out of his house and she can go and be another man's wife. But the only stipulation was that she couldn't go back to her former husband because now she'd been defiled by another man. Jesus did not tell them to divorce. And so not only did Jesus not tell them to divorce their wives, because those people would have been abiding under the law of Moses. And so many of them women or men was remarried under the law of Moses. But Jesus did not tell them to put away their wives or to put away the ones they remarried. And so Paul also said to remain as you are when you call. Corinthians chapter 7, starting in verse 17. Paul says, but as God had distributed to every man, as the Lord had called everyone, so let him walk. And so ordained I in all churches. Then he give an example of circumcision. He said, is any man called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Is any called in uncircumcision? Let him not be circumcised. So basically, you remain in the way you are. You're not becoming uncircumcised, or you're not becoming circumcised. If you already were circumcised, you're not trying to become uncircumcised. If you uncircumcised, you're not trying to become circumcised. And then he go on to say circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is nothing but the keeping of the commandments of God. He said, look, he finna say it again the second time. Let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. He says, or thou called being a servant, care not for it. But if thou mayest be made free, use it rather. He said, for he that is called in the Lord, being a servant, is the Lord's freeman. Likewise also he that is called being free, he is Christ's servant. Ye are bought with a price, be not ye the servants of men. He say, brethren, let every man wherein he is called, therein abide with God. So however you were when you were called, Paul says, let him abide with God. And Jesus didn't command nobody to divorce. But clearly they was under the law of Moses at the time, and they would have been remarrying. I don't see Jesus not one time saying, put them away now. No, he didn't say that. So when Jesus came along and told those Pharisees, when they asked him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? Jesus came along and said, well, God joined together, don't separate. And then they say, well, why did Moses command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? Jesus say, well, he wrote you that precept for the hardness of your hearts. But from the beginning, it wasn't so. And then he go on to say, and I say. So he give his exception. He say, and I say unto you that whosoever shall put away. Now he just said that God join together, let not man put asunder. So that means don't put away. But he gave an exception. He say, and I say unto you that whosoever shall put away. So if you do decide to put away, I told you what God joined together, don't separate. But if you do decide to put away, he says, and whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication. Except it be for fornication. If you put away your wife, except it be for fornication. If you put away your wife, except it be for fornication. One more time. If you put away your wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committed adultery. What is it that you don't see about the exception? I just don't get it. You either don't believe scripture. You can't run over to another scripture where he says you bound by the law for life. You are bound by the law for life, but that don't exclude the exception. That's your only exception to putting away. We're not talking about unbeliever, departing from unbelief. We're not talking about that. We talking about specifically you, a man or a woman, putting away somebody else. That's what we talking about, putting away. What is it that you do not see